Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are energized after the tea and coffee break, because now we have an amazing panelist here who will share some powerful insight on the CIO's role as a strategic partners in accelerating digital transformation. With the interest of time, I will just skip the introduction and I will directly move to the first question. So let's open this discussion with the most recent hacking program called as Skeletal. So the Skeletal attack was a highly sophisticated cloud operation that involved the theft of proprietary data. So, hi Mr. Harshad. How can we secure cloud data from such attacks?
Yeah, it's a very good question, in fact. And this Skeletal was a completely sophisticated attack. This was an attack where actually, Kubernetes, self-managed Kubernetes was under the threat. Attack happened through web applications, web internet-facing applications, which was managed through Kubernetes, self-managed Kubernetes. The attacker especially was on AWS, where actually the interesting part was they started using crypto miners. I'm just giving some background.
Sure.
They used crypto miners using XM rig. That was one of the crypto miner was used in this. And parallelly, they also, harvested some of the script to, capture some of the credential data. Now, this was the sophisticated attack because crypto miner was used as a decoy. And, most of the organization failed to identify the, the data theft. They started fixing the crypto miner being a decoy. And then eventually attacker gained access to the instance metadata, which is basically the core. And then eventually they got into the proprietary data, and then they captured they moved laterally, captured data and exfiltrated the data. This was something which was identified by, I think, SysDig, I think some time back, I think in the month of February, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. This was one of the sophisticated attack through which actually even many control failed. So in my opinion, I think organization has to look into not just VAPT, they have to look into multiple controls, like for example, at WAF level, you need to have RASP. That's one level. Second is basically you need to have a granular controls. You need to have a cloud posture management. Typically the CNAP, basically popularly used nowadays, which basically talks about cloud native protection. Application protection, that is something which is equally important, which includes CSPM, which is basically posture management, also includes the workload protection, CSWP. Along with that, actually the entitlement management is also, infrastructure entitlement management is also equally important. So I think with these kind of controls in place, to extent these kind of attacks can be protected. Traditional way of doing a VAPT is not sufficient. Putting endpoint controls is also we have seen that is also a failure in this case, because your workloads are not properly managed, configured, and that's how actually attacker gain the access, and they have extracted the data. So in my opinion, we need to look at the framework in totality, the use cases, how you are going to use, for what purpose you are going to use cloud. If it is for a critical resources, they need to, put a robust controls around, your workload, especially when we are talking about DevSec, you need to have a DevSecOps, not just DevOps. So I think that's something which, is some of the suggestions from my side.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Harshad, for your insights. Now I'll move to the next question, which is to Mr. Aniruddha. Customer experience, employee experience, and digital transformation. How are these connected, and what trends do you see regards in the industry?
So, you said two experiences and one transformation.
Right.
I feel the transformation is just for the two experiences.
Right,
and very frankly speaking, there was a trend where we said we will be or we are a data company. Beyond that, there were statements which started coming in that we will be or we are a tech company. But I would rather say that we will always be a business company, and a business model cannot be stolen.
Right.
What tech can be copied, stolen, replicated, but business model or that driver for business can never be stolen. And that always comes from experience. A simple example which I will bring in over here is Uber versus Ola in India or in Bombay. I will just ask all of you a simple question. How many of you prefer Ola above Uber or feel that Ola has a higher market share as compared to Uber in India? Most of us, right? That is simply because the kind of market understanding or experience they have understood and they connect with the users. Plus, there is a connect or things with their internal customers. So digital transformation will always follow your customer experience and your internal user experience. The day you start enabling or supporting your experiences with transformation, your transformation will definitely be successful.
Thank you, Mr. Aniruddha. I think the example of Ola and Uber will actually help the audience to understand the case better. But any other views from any of the panelists on this regards?
No, I think customer experience is very, very important. So I can say from my own company, like the way few years back, the channel partners, the way they were interacting with us and the way now they are interacting with us, so the expectation is at a complete different level, and that's why now we are using a lot of design thinking, that really going to the channels, even to the customer, to really look from a human empathy angle, so that is very, very important because if we don't do, the customer will not be able to retain the customer, And second, on the employee experience also, so like earlier speaker was saying, now employee also, like even from the day of joining and till the time the employee is there in the company. So his experience or her experience really matters, So unless we use the technology to really give this personalized experience, things won't work it out. So very, very important. Yeah.
So I'll just say one more thing. Industry 4.0 is already there and we are probably, all of us are into it or piloting it or doing something specifically in manufacturing. But I would say industry 5.0 will be customization or to a level will be specific, a person specific. Okay. What I need.
Okay. Great to hear the inputs from Aniruddha and UC Singh. So next question is to UC Singh. Where does the digital transformation find relevance in a product company? Because obviously you are a CIO of CEAT. So how does digital transformation relevant in a company like yours with respect to its supply chain management?
No, it's very, very different. It's very, very important. And we have really started our digital transformation journey almost about 4 years back, And just to share with you, we became the first tire company globally that has been given the Lighthouse certification for our one of the largest manufacturing plant, So it's very, very important. Normally for the supply chain, if you look at any traditional supply chain, it's all about demand, sourcing, where and what to manufacture, and then the distribution planning. Now, if we don't use the digital technology, it's very, very different. It's very difficult because there are 4 aspects to it, the way I look at it, and that is how we have been doing it. First is visibility. Now, with so many touch points in terms of the plants, so many distribution centers, so many channel partners, so many customers, and so much of data at each touch point. So if I don't have a visibility, let's say for our stock or other things, it's very difficult to make a manual decision making, and it's very difficult to do a planning, right? The second aspect is scalability. Now, few years back, the number of SKUs or number of products we were managing, now the number of plants, the substantial increase. It would have been very difficult to just add resources, which is adding a human resource is a very, very difficult task, So we were able to scale because of the digital solution, The third aspect in any supply chain is optimization. whether it is a load optimization, whether it is a route optimization, whether it is a supply planning optimization, we can't do without a digital technology solution, right? And the fourth is what if, so now with the ever changing business model, and so much of competition happening, there are new business models we have to come out, and at the crux of even like experience, what matters is how you actually deliver the product, the right product, you are optimizing the inventory across the value chain, and also meeting the organization goal of profit, right? So it's very important that supply chain in a product company, I would say it is like the main focus for a company like us, yeah?
Right. Thank you so much for the insight, Singh. I think a lot of points we have come up that the digital transformation is very important for a company in a supply chain management as well. Now moving to the next question. So Mr. Rajkumar, how does a CIO help reach the revenue growth of the organization? What proactive measures are required?
I think the role of CIO has completely got transformed in, I would say, rather a couple of decades now. But I think a lot of scenarios like COVID and all has actually helped us understand the relevance of IT within the organizations. So if you typically see the role of a CIO a CIO has to think like a CEO right now. Because the revenue models and product reaches, or if you really wanted to enhance your portfolio, everything is all digitally, or I would say rather technology dependency has actually grown enormous right now. So I feel that, when we look at, our own journey, I think what I echo with UC, wherein the way we look at the business is completely changed. Now we are talking about things like KPIs. We always say whether we wanted to reduce the cycle time, whether we want to increase the productivity of the employees, are we going to introduce new products into the market, are we talking about supply chain, you talk about any areas for that matter. Every area has a relevance, and we always talk about how much quantum are you going to reduce certain things, or how much you're going to enhance the productivity. So we always look at what needs to be done in terms of, so we derive the KPIs. For example, I can talk about a couple of the areas where I would like to mention right now is like we have something called world-class engineering. So what we call it is design to value. So when you look at even engineering also, how do you look at design from a value perspective? Okay, when we look at cycle time reductions, or you're talking about reduction of, I would say rather quality aspects, number of iterations it takes, various areas. So everywhere what we need to look at is that the technology plays a major role, and without technology, manually it is not possible. And we talk about so many areas things like we talk about industry 1.0, 2, 3, 4, everything has a base. The base is all about, what is that you're targeting to reduce it across. So this is all nothing but the business problems. And these enablers, or rather, I would say without technology, this is not possible. Okay. So the way I would like to portray things is that it is the business KPIs, to achieve this, we are using technology. So today we talk about AI, ML, we talk about all these things, which is possible today is only because the cost of hardware has drastically come down, and we need a lot of data to be available for us. If you see, I can give you a statistics of more than 95% of the data which got generated only in the last 2 years or so. So it means the quantum of data which is available for us. The third important thing is all about the algorithms which we have in the today's. This can process heavy data and give you outcomes. So today we don't need to go and ask a shop floor guy to say what is happening on the shop floor, because the sensors are available. You have IIoTs, you have every type of data which automatically gives you an analysis of what is happening on ground and what kind of preventive or proactive steps to be taken up. So what I am trying to say is it's an amalgamation of both. It is all about solving a business problem through technology. But this is all possible because the technology has grown enormously in last decade or so. That's what I can say right now.
Thank you so much, Rajkumar. I think it's a very important point that nowadays CIO also has to think like a CEO. So any other people want to share the views? Any other panelists?
I think CIO, my experience is, and that you just align with just become a business partner, just align with the business, then you and solve their problems, you will automatically be contributing to the revenue stream of the business. And rather than first suggesting our own technology path, if you are able to solve the business problem, what they are expecting, and how fast we can do that, then automatically we become the part of the revenue stream. Direct revenue, still CIO, I don't see. I'm saying that maybe you have built a piece of a code or a piece of software which you are using and you can sell it to some other. So I don't see that possibility, but maybe some companies it may be happening. But I think if you are aligned, you are partnering with the business, you automatically become with the part of the revenue stream. Yeah.
Thank you so much, UC Singh ji. So basically, we have to align with the business partners and partner with them as a CIO to become a betterment for the company. So next question is open to all the panelists. What role do you see in the emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud computing playing in the future of organization IT strategies? Nowadays, ChatGPT and other lot of technologies are there. So how do you manage with these technologies regarding your strategies of the organization?
See, I'll take it up.
Sure.
Let's talk with some statistics over here. This is a Harvard research paper, which I had actually referred to for something. It says 90% of the companies today are either piloting or already implemented or looking at AI as their next step into technology. Around 60% of them have a data analytics platform and everything ready. When they went on to study the source data, a shocking revelation which came out was only 40% of these organizations had correct source data.
Okay.
So this is a major challenge which I say should come out. Although technology is there, everything is available, but as CIOs, as leaders, as organization, we need to look inside and be mature enough to answer saying how much of our data is correct. Because it's garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
AI will learn what you will teach it. Like if you go to see, you gave an example of ChatGPT. But today, if you go to see, ChatGPT has been giving a lot of wrong answers,
Right.
a lot of incorrect answers. And then when you go on to the thumbs up, thumbs down icon on the ChatGPT and go to thumbs down, it asks you to correct it.
Okay.
See, that's the way it learns. But when it is your in-house data or when you are working, you don't expect your users to sit and correct at real time.
Right.
So I would always say that before going on to technologies like machine learning or AI, get your data sorted.
Right. So that's a very good point from Aniruddha that we have to get the data solid. Any other views from any panelist?
So I think I believe that we have to think with a progressive mindset. Everything will go hand in hand, your backend system, your core systems, plus this digital technology. You have to keep experimenting, and it is good to fail, but fail fast, because if you do even 10 experiments, even one is successful, it gives you the value, But we should not delay it because like many organizations who have delayed, then you become like a dinosaur. By the time you realize, you are out. So we have to keep doing all the things together. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for your insight, Mr. UC Singh.
Probably I just wanted to add
Sure.
things. See, I think when we talk about AI is still in it's not matured. It's going towards the maturity phase. So typically in cybersecurity, what we do is basically we keep any new solution in the learning phase and then in the protection phase, right? So I think this is a time where actually many of the cybersecurity technologies are already using AI. and they are moving towards maturity stage. So I think that's something which is very, very positive. And look at the analyst, today analyst in few years back, analysts used to look at some maybe around 100,000 incident manually, which is merely is very difficult task. And now with the AI coming in, the way we learn, the way we teach that technology, as Aniruddha rightly mentioned, it's basically learning stage. Now the false positive are removed. So that way actually it is helping us a lot in cybersecurity space. Second, about blockchain, I think it's a very good technology. I think in security world, I think that's going to be a next targeted technology where a lot of things are coming up. There are a lot of use cases on VPN, there are a lot of use cases on the contract management. These are popularly used today, and I think they are going to be very useful in upcoming years. So I think we should be very positive, as you see rightly mentioned, and these technologies will be definitely going to be helpful for next generation.
Thank you so much for the interesting insight, Mr. Harshad. In the interest of time, I think only 10 minutes are left, so I will open the floor for questions from the audience. I request you to be specific in your questions and one question at a time, please. So anybody from the audience want to ask anything?
Thanks everyone for the insightful discussion. Myself, Pawan Goyal, I have been working in analytics for almost 15 years. Last I was in JP Morgan. My first question is to Aniruddha. When you mentioned about the source of data, the one question most of the organization comes is who is the owner of the data, and there has been a continuous struggle between the centralized IT data team versus the business, and that's where it happens. Okay, who will correct the data if you don't know the ownership? So that is, if you can help how that is being identified or being decided. And second question is most to the all panelists is that when the computer adoption happened 3-4 decades back, there were some few computer experts which were in the organization. But nowadays, everyone in the organization operates the computer. How that is going to happen with the data and analytics side rather than being concentrated to some limited people in the organization? Or you think that all functional people across sales, marketing, operations will be working on the data analytics to some extent in the future?
See, I think you've answered your first question with the second question.
But how it is being decided right now?
Likely what you've said is today everybody is well versed with technology. Everybody has first-hand technology experience at their homes. I think all of us use smart TVs, smartphones, you have your Alexas and your Siris. Even our kids have been using this technology. And in fact, when we walk into our organizations, we still do not have that voice technology in the organization. So one thumb rule which I say for data ownership is the source data gets generated at one place. Wherever that data is getting generated, the owner of that particular source is the owner of the data. For example, if the data is getting generated in machines and I have an IoT which pulls out data from that machine, the owner of that data should be the production head or the manufacturing head who is owning those machines over there or that department. Because that's the only way I know the correctness of data or I can validate the data. If I say IT or there is a MDM team who's going to manage the data, that is never going to work out because there will be influences, there will be some pressures, and they will work just for the sake of closing those things. It will not be a validity in terms of, even simple example, if you have IoT and your data is owned by somebody else, your edge will never work or will never give you the right output. So data source owner should be the owner of the data. That's what I normally say as a thumb rule.
I think I would like to answer your second question. If you typically see, I would throw some statistics to say that out of 100%, only 16% of the projects will see a daylight. Okay. The reason for it is, if you look back onto it, it is all about how do you portray it. In the sense, if there is any project, you project it as an IT project, it will never work. Okay. It is all about how business looks at it, whether it solves its problem or not. Okay. And the ownership has to be transferred back to them. In the sense, you have to form a team or you should put the problem to them to say what is that you want to solve. We are only facilitators. You need to drive it. You need to conclude it. Then comes the technology. It's not about the other way. Okay. So the way we do it today is, today, I mean, if you look at the youngsters, they're all millennials. I mean, they always know the technology. They always love to experiment and all. But organizations are not like that. Organizations still will have the quantum of people who comes with that legacy, and they're scared of technology. And they never wanted to learn anything. And they never wanted to do anything, and they always want to keep everything with them. Dependency kind of a nature. So what we need to look at is, one is push hard onto them, saying that survival is the fittest. I mean, we need to understand necessity. I mean, we talked about Ola, Uber and all. Today, a rickshawala can operate it, or any guy who doesn't even know the technology, or it is a necessity. That necessity has to be created in the organization. And that's the only way you will be able to ensure that it is a facilitation for them to solve their own problem. And that's the way they need to look at it. And they will learn it. And for that, you can always work out a strategy wherein you create an IT academies within the organization, wherein you train people, you actually get the new youngsters out of college, make them part of the group, so that they run around and start teaching the other people. And that kind of mechanism would only work for making the project successful in the organization.
Thank you so much, Aniruddha and Rajkumar ji, for your insights. I hope they have answered your question. Any other question? I think.
Hello. Yeah. My question to all the panelists would be, what is the best and the most minimal budget way to stay in touch with your customers using technology?
So the question is basically they're asking the minimum budget which a CEO should spend on the technology.
No. So I am asking that a way wherein we spend the minimum of budget and we can have the maximum coverage with the customers, especially on the help desk side.
On the help desk side, he's asking if there is some way we can minimize the budget and maximize the customer experience. Anybody would like to take this up?
Okay, I'm not sure, because there's nothing like you will be able to fix any kind of a budget for anything. It's all about the necessity, which I was talking about. But I can quote you an example of, you were talking about the help desk and all, right? I can talk about some of the examples like IMS services, like infrastructure management services. If you take an example of this kind of a nature, if you really look at it, it was more, I would say, manpower intensive kind of a stuff, where every seniors, or you talk about anything, you want to do a video conferencing, you want an endpoint support, or everything is where there will be a lot of people running around. Hands and feet within the organization used to be huge. Now this cannot run the way it used to run earlier. I mean, COVID was one of the example wherein everybody were out, and how do you expect people to give them support, and people have to learn how to get their necessary support on the endpoints. Now to push all these kind of things, the only way you need to look at is, how do you automate? Have a centralized way of working culture wherein you should not allow any of your resources to go and sit with the users and say, this is the way it should work. No. What you need to do is, you have to create a centralized technical team. You also need to start creating, it could think about, today organizations talk about heal ITs, scripts and all these things, wherein you keep pushing on them. You also have things like ITSM tools, see how many of them things can be automated, wherein we don't need to have the manpower dependencies or individual dependencies. The best way is to say, okay, this year we have a budget of holding maybe 40, 50 resources. We have to cut down by 50%, and 50% has to be replaced with robots. That could be scripts, it could be anything for that matter. And that's the only way things would work. And it will automate, dependencies goes down, and we have to be preparing our organizations to make ourselves ready for future. As I think I was just talking to Harshad on this. See, there are manually not possible. If you have an attack somewhere in the late nights, do you think a manpower would be in a position to handle it? It takes 15 minutes to encrypt entire, servers across DR, DC, you name everything. Wherever the network is reachable, everything gets encrypted. Will it be humanly possible? So that's where we need to look at the technology, we need to look at automations, we need to look at how do we reduce the human dependencies and ensure that it is in an autopilot mode and it is always on the guard. That is what I can say at this point of time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajkumar. We'll just take one last question. I think the gentleman in white want to ask some question. We'll just take the on the third bench, on the third seat. Yeah. So we'll just take one last question.
Hi, my name is Kaushik Joshi from Parekh Integrated Services. We are a logistic company. My question in regards to Harshad for security per se, that I believe modern threat needs modern technology. And open source devastatingly increase and majority of the libraries are available. We may talk about IoTs and all. And many open source library will be used for rapid development and fast delivery to the business. How we can make sure that whatever the libraries or any application going into the CI/CD, how we can make sure that from root level if we secure, then what would be approach we have to take so that the application would be at first level, we can say satisfiedly 99% secured and moving to the production.
A very good question. See, I think in my opinion, open source tools are like cockroaches. Okay, they are everywhere. It's a short answer, but yes. So you will see that open source will be there and it will be used in many of our programs. That's something which is we have to be you have to accept this fact. Now, how we can actually minimize and how we can protect our source code or other programs or the entire application is something which we need to think of. Now, these libraries which are basically exposed over internet, maybe having some malicious code, okay, that's one way of looking at things. So first you need to understand whether these libraries are clean. Yes, it is clean, then you can use it. Second part is basically whether your application needs these kind of open libraries. Can you build your own libraries? Answer is, again, you need to spend time. So you need to spend time versus the agility. You need to have balance between this. Again, there is a cost also associated with this. If you need commercial libraries, then again you have to pay for it. So you need to strike a balance between time, agility, and cost. So it all depends on that. Now, how we can protect? There are multiple tools, technologies available today. I don't want to name them, but then typically source code analyzers are good tools to understand whether these libraries are secured enough. Second, whenever you are hosting in the cloud, you need to when we talk about typically DevSecOps, you need to ensure that all the gatekeepers. So in typically Amazon, AWS, we have gatekeepers, right? There are profile managers which actually act as a gatekeeper. So you need to configure those gatekeepers in a right appropriate way so that your code is not leaked out, or even if you have a malicious code, it will be identified the day before you deploy this into production. There are tools available already in a native cloud which you can make use of. I can share the list of such practices. They are already there. We just have to use it. But you can't really avoid open source. This is my personal opinion, nothing to do with the organization. But you can't really avoid, making use of open source technology. I hope it is answering your question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harshad. Now with this last question, we have closed the panel discussion. Thanks to all the panelists for your wonderful insight. I'm sure it will be useful for the audience member leading to the digital transformation in their organizations. I thank the audience too for engaging with the panel. I thank everyone and have a great day ahead in the summit. A great round of applause for all the panelists. Thank you so much.